The newlyweds, Sarah and David, were excited to begin their life together in a charming old cottage nestled deep within a dense, secluded forest. It was a picturesque place, but its history was shrouded in mystery. The locals whispered of a ghostly presence, and Sarah had heard eerie tales from the neighbors. Nevertheless, love had blinded them to the sinister reputation of their new home. Their first night in the cottage was peaceful, with the soft rustling of leaves outside and the flicker of candlelight casting dancing shadows on the walls. The couple cuddled up, feeling safe in each other's arms, dismissing the stories they had heard as mere superstitions. But as the weeks went by, strange things began to happen. In the dead of night, Sarah would wake to the sound of distant, mournful wails, like a lamenting soul trapped in purgatory. David brushed it off as the wind or wild animals, but deep down, an unsettling feeling crept into their hearts. But one evening, while David was away, Sarah was alone in the cottage. She heard faint footsteps in the corridor, but when she investigated, there was no one there. She nervously laughed it off, attributing it to her overactive imagination. That night as they slept, Sarah dreamt of a figure in white, a ghostly woman who seemed to beckon her from the depths of the forest. The disturbances intensified. Unexplained chills coursed through the air, chilling them to the bone. The couple's once joyful conversations grew hushed and tense. They could no longer deny that something was terribly wrong with their idyllic cottage. One stormy night, as rain battered the windows and the forest outside groaned with the weight of the wind, Sarah was jolted awake. The entire room was bathed in an eerie bluish light. She nudged David, who lay motionless beside her, seemingly in a deep sleep. Her heart pounded as she realized the light emanated from the figure of a woman, glowing and ethereal, standing at the foot of their bed. Sarah's terror was palpable as she watched the apparition, whose mournful eyes met hers. A spectral hand reached out towards her, fingers stretching as if to touch her. The room grew unbearably cold, and the couple's breath misted in the spectral glow. Suddenly, the ghostly figure spoke in a voice that seemed to echo from the grave, telling a woeful tale of love lost and a life cut short by tragedy. She implored Sarah for help, her words carrying the weight of centuries of sorrow. The once skeptical newlywed now understood that they were not alone in the cottage, that this was the ghost that had haunted their nights. The spirit's plea for release from this earthly realm stirred something in Sarah's compassionate heart. She held out her hand to the ghost, promising to help her find peace. The room filled with a dazzling, blinding light, and the ghostly figure dissolved into a shimmering mist that swirled around them before vanishing. From that night on, the eerie occurrences ceased. Sarah and David remained in the cottage, but their experiences had bonded them in a profound way. They had learned that love, compassion, and understanding could transcend the boundaries between the living and the dead. The old cottage in the forest held its secrets, but Sarah and David had come to accept them. The ghostly presence, once feared, had become a part of their life, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, love and compassion could conquer fear and bring peace to those who had been long departed. As the years went by, the ghostly figure was rarely seen, and the couple lived out their days in contentment, cherishing the lessons they had learned in that cottage in the forest, where a love that transcended life and death had prevailed.